No one knocked on doors in Port Meridian anymore. People sent messages, drones delivered packages, and emergencies announced themselves with sirens. So when Elias Mercer heard a soft, uncertain knock echo through the narrow corridor outside his apartment, he assumed it was a mistake. He stayed still, lights dimmed, listening. The knock came again, hesitant, almost apologetic. Elias sighed, pushed himself up from his chair, and opened the door just enough to see who was there. She stood smaller than he expected, wrapped in a dull gray cloak that hid most of her form. Her skin shimmered faintly blue beneath the corridor lights, and her eyes, too large, too luminous to be human, lifted to meet his. She flinched when the door opened wider, pressing herself back against the wall as if trying to disappear. "I can cook," she whispered quickly, words tumbling over each other in broken trade standard. "I can clean. I can be quiet. I will not take much space." Elias stared at her, heart stuttering. Refugees weren't uncommon in Meridian, but most stayed in camps or corporate shelters. This wasn't how they asked for help. "You've got the wrong door," he said automatically, though his voice lacked conviction. Her shoulders sagged. "They said humans sometimes say yes." She hesitated, then added softly, "I have nowhere else." Elias had learned long ago not to say yes. After the war, after the armistice that no one really won, he had learned to keep his doors shut and his life small. But something in the way she spoke, not demanding, not bargaining, just offering herself as if she were a burden to be minimized, made his chest ache. "What's your name?" he asked. "Salith," she replied. He opened the door fully. "Come in." She froze, disbelief written across her delicate features. "Yes?" "Before I changed my mind," he muttered. Inside, his apartment was sparse: a table, 2 chairs, a narrow kitchen, and a window overlooking the docking spires. Salith stood just inside the doorway, hands folded, waiting for instructions like a servant awaiting orders. Elias gestured toward the chair. "Sit. You don't have to." She sat immediately anyway, posture perfect, eyes fixed on the floor. Elias ran a hand through his hair. "You hungry?" Her nod was barely visible. He heated a nutrient pack, sliding it across the table. She examined it with care before taking small bites, chewing as if afraid to waste any of it. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. Over the next few days, Salith kept her promises. She cooked with surprising skill using whatever supplies Elias had, cleaned the apartment until it looked lived in again, and moved so quietly he sometimes forgot she was there. She slept on the floor until he gave her the spare cot, and even then she thanked him as if he'd gifted her a planet. Elias learned pieces of her story without asking. Her people, the Lyran, had allied with humanity during the war. When the coalition collapsed, they were labeled collaborators. Their cities burned. Survivors scattered. Salith had crossed 3 systems alone, trading labor for passage, always temporary, always expendable. "You don't have to earn staying here," Elias told her one night. She looked genuinely confused. "Then why would you let me?" He didn't have a good answer. What he did have were nightmares, memories of battlefields and orders that still echoed in his sleep. The first time Salith heard him wake up shouting, she didn't run. She sat beside his bed, humming a low, resonant sound that vibrated through the room, easing his breathing until the panic faded. "My people used this for hatchlings," she explained shyly the next morning. It became routine after that. She never asked about the war. She never looked at his scars with pity. She simply existed beside him, steady and patient, as if that were enough. Weeks passed. Elias laughed again, quietly at first, then without fear. He found himself coming home earlier, bringing extra food, asking Salith what she thought about things that mattered and things that didn't. She listened as if every word were valuable. One evening, a patrol drone hovered outside his window, scanning units for undocumented aliens. Elias felt the old fear rise in his throat. Salith noticed immediately. "I can go," she said, already reaching for her cloak. "I will not cause trouble." "No," Elias said sharply, stepping between her and the door. The words surprised them both. He took a breath. You're not leaving. They will punish you, she whispered. Let them try. When the drone moved on, Salith sank into the chair, trembling. Elias realized then that protecting her mattered to him in a way nothing had in years. Not out of duty. Not out of guilt. But because she was his. And somehow he was hers. I don't need you to be quiet, he told her softly. Or useful. Or anything like that. She looked up, eyes bright with unshed tears. Then what am I allowed to be? Elias smiled, a real one. You're allowed to be here. Salith's people believed humans were dangerous because they bonded fiercely and never let go. The galaxy saw it as a flaw. Standing in that small apartment, with a human who had opened his door when he didn't have to, Salith understood the truth. It wasn't a flaw. It was how humans survived.